Welcome to Liberal Banter with Liz and Olu. This week we'll be discussing Trump and Elon Musk's interview, JD Vance and how he still can't help himself, Liz Truss, we're bringing you some news from across the pond this time, and some unsolicited advice for voters in the U.S. in November. So first topic, Trump and Elon Musk, the interview they had. I will say that I listened to the entire thing. I was drained at the end. Thank you. I was very drained at the end because, first of all, it was 40 minutes late, which I guess, our time isn't valuable, so whatever. It's 40 minutes late, and then Elon made up a lie, basically, about why it was 40 minutes late, saying that the site was the subject of some cyber attack, which nobody has validated, so I'm just going to call it a lie. But they were 40 minutes late, 10 minutes of which was in total silence. I can't get over the fact we were really, vibing to the hold music, and then for 10 minutes it was dead silence, which was actually significantly worse than the hold music, so that was ridiculous. And then we finally started, and it was as you would expect. Olu, that's what I'll say about it. It was as you would expect it to go. There was no new news there. But please let us know your thoughts, because you were smart and you stayed away. You were like, I'm good. I did not, and now I have to deal with the consequences.
I mean, I have to say I appreciate you for the sacrifice.
Thank you. I lost a lot of brain cells and IQ points after that. I'm still trying to get them back. I've been reading a lot of science books and shit just to figure it out.
I mean, I guess we wouldn't have anything to talk about if you didn't bite the bullet and do this. So
that's true.
Our audience and I thank you.
Thank you.
So, I mean, you listened to it. So what happened? Tell me what you learned.
What happened? I felt like I had stumbled into a conversation at a retirement home for conservative racists. And that's what it felt like, like maybe you're like at work and people are talking at the table next to you and you're listening, because it's fascinating, but you're also just very disturbed. There was so much. I mean, first of all, for those of you who don't know, Elon Musk, genius, according to people, not me, said he wanted to do this because he felt that Trump has been in a lot of adversarial interviews, which is hilarious because, it's not like Trump has been on MSNBC or something, right? He talks to a lot of conservative news people, but whatever. Elon said he felt Trump hasn't had a lot of fair interviews, and so instead of an interview, he wanted a conversation because he feels or felt that there's a side of Trump that we don't see, and it's a very normal, very reasonable, thoughtful side, I guess. And so that's why he set up this Twitter space, was to have this new and different, I guess, side of Trump come out. But there was nothing new. If you have listened to any Trump rally in the last 8 years, literally since 2016, you already know everything that was said, give or take some, the election was stolen nonsense. It's just, there was no news. And it was unsurprising that there was no news, but it was still aggravating because to me, it felt like a waste of time. That's what, if it was 2 hours of nonsense, 2 hours of racism, 2 hours of lying, Elon Musk did not push back. He literally sat there, and I didn't expect him to. I mean, he's not a journalist, and I don't think he knows anything about the topics he was discussing anyway. Just because you're rich doesn't mean you're an expert on the economy or whatever. But it was just surprising to hear an immigrant from South Africa sit there and let Trump say, people are coming from Africa, it's so terrible. I was like, what? I mean, that's not a direct quote, but you get my point. That was the vibe.
Okay. I like what you just said about just because you're wealthy doesn't mean you're an expert on everything, right? Because that is a major problem that we have in the American society, where just because somebody is successful at one thing, people just assume that they have infinite wisdom about something else. But I want to take a moment to even attack what like Elon Musk is supposed to be good at, because he is supposed to be a tech genius, right? How can you set up a link to talk to the person who you think is going to be the next leader of the free world, and you haven't prepared for like the technical outcomes? You're the what
Yeah.
richest tech billionaire in the world.
Is he?
How?
I don't know.
Well, one of the, I don't know. I don't care enough about those people to
I
even
don't
talk
keep up with
about
the
it.
charts to know who's number one right now,
But
but yes, he's up there.
he is one of them, right? Like this is the minimum skill that he and his engineers should be able to clear. You're
Well,
talking to the presidential candidate who Microsoft just announced the week before that Iran hacked their the RNC and the Trump campaign, right?
mm-hmm,
So
mm-hmm.
the very least you should do, in my opinion, is like talk to your engineers and make sure you have a secure line that people cannot attack. Like, what is the point of this guy then if he
Listen,
cannot set up
listen,
a secure link?
listen. I know this is going to be shocking to you, but Elon Musk is not a tech genius. just let's just call it right now. If you didn't call it already, I've never believed that. What I think Elon is a lucky businessman and venture capitalist. That's what he is. He's not a tech business person,
Okay, so what is
expert.
the hype about then?
Well, I don't want to get into like the origins of Elon because that's a longer story. But what I will say is he does not run his companies well. I'm not
Okay,
shocked that the Twitter space was a failure. Like the Cybertruck is a disaster,
so
right?
you're
Like the
telling me he
so-called
couldn't?
boring tunnels don't exist, right? The Hyperloop is fiction. There's no there for the things that he comes up with because they're not always based in reality. So I'm not shocked that they weren't prepared for the traffic they were going to see for some reason. A 12-year-old could have told them there was going to be a lot of traffic, but they weren't prepared. So it is what it is. He's not a good businessman. He's just been lucky. That's my thought on Elon. He's just lucky
Okay.
and good for him. But genius, hell no. So don't even worry about that. That's what I was gonna say. Just don't worry about whether he's a genius or not.
I completely agree. I guess I'm setting this up to get people thinking about like who we assign genius to versus who we don't, and who we just
Mm-hmm.
assume is competent and good at what they do versus who we don't, right? Because Trump went to the National Association of Black Journalists. That's a very small group of what, a couple of hundred people, and accused them of being incompetent because they couldn't set up, like, or at least in his words, even though apparently
Mm-hmm.
he was lying, that they
Mm-hmm.
couldn't set up the audio tech or whatever, right?
Right, and
And
that's
that's
why
just like,
the thing was late.
right. And those are nobodies, right? Meanwhile, we have a guy who has presumably all of the best engineers at his disposal, and he couldn't set up a simple, secure link, right? Even his excuse is dumb. So you're telling me that you, as a CEO of Twitter, you could not get your engineers to make sure that your link could not be attacked? Then what's the purpose of you? Why are you interviewing a presidential candidate if you cannot like protect the line from foreign attacks? It doesn't
Yeah,
make any sense.
it doesn't. And then the actual sort of content of the interview was just more of that incompetence. It's even from an interview structure, like there were times the conversation dragged and got repetitive, and Elon is not an interviewer, so he didn't know how to move the conversation along. He sort of let Trump go on these rants, and musings. And it really, like I said, I felt like you were listening to a conversation. So I guess in that respect, Elon achieved his goal. It definitely felt like I was listening to a conversation, but it felt like a conversation where like, like, I don't know. Like I use the example of being at work, but maybe work is not a good example. It's more like you're on a very long train ride, so you can't leave, right? You're on a plane. These people are in the row in front of you talking, so you can't leave and you have to listen. I know we all have free will. I could have disconnected. I should have, but I really wanted.
I
I
was
really
about to point
wanted.
that out, like it was
I
just
know, I know,
click.
but I felt like I had to see this through after waiting 40 minutes, sunk cost fallacy and all that. I was like, I've put this much time into it. I might as well see it through. And, it was a mistake, I think. But I feel like, if there's any kind of upside, maybe people will start seeing what you're saying about like, just because you're rich, just because you're successful, doesn't mean you're smart. There's someone else who's having that sort of moment too, which we don't have to really talk about, but Peter Thiel, who is the person who is bankrolling JD Vance's political career, which is already a sign that he's not smart for doing that. But Peter Thiel was on Joe Rogan this week, the Joe Rogan podcast this week, and had a lot of thoughts, let's say, on places to live in the U.S. and Social Security and taxes, and just a lot of takes that I'm sure will make its way into the internet over the next couple of days that are just dumb. Like, again, another billionaire who you think because they've been successful, they have the secrets to success in life. And I listened to part of it because it's, Joe Rogan is 3 hours. I'm definitely not doing that. And it's just another rich guy, doing dumb billionaire stuff. And that's what this week, the theme of this week was for me. It was just between Elon and Peter Thiel and Trump, and just rich people being stupid and showing us that they're human just like us. And they're not that smart. Not always.
I am so sorry you had to go through that. Those are names that I am personally allergic to. Like I break out in hives when I hear those names. So I'm so sorry that this happened to you, Liz.
I mean, I do find it interesting. I'm not like a victim here. I want to say I do find this stuff interesting because I want to know how people who are not like me think. Right? I mean, at one point, for example, during the Peter Thiel interview, he talks about where he would live in the U.S. and because he lives in California, which again, he's a conservative, libertarian, whatever you want to call it, but he calls L.A. home, which is one of the quote wokest places on the planet. But he calls L.A. home, and he said he can't leave because there's just something about California. And he talks about all these other states he might think about moving to and why he would never. And I just thought, like, people listen to this guy. It's crazy. But I do find it interesting. So don't feel too bad for me.
Speaking of JD Vance, though.
Oh, God.
I
should we be speaking of JD Vance?
Well, you mentioned Peter Thiel.
Yes,
him, so I tried to do an awkward transition.
I know. No, it's fine. Listen, I already said the topics at the beginning. I know we're going to talk about him. I just you know what I mean?
Okay.
It's just, yeah.
I'm going to let our audience know that every week we tell ourselves, okay, next week we're not talking about JD Vance.
It's true.
He just keeps doing something stupid, something ridiculous keeps getting revealed every time. And I'm sorry that I couldn't let this one go. So I don't think Liz has heard this one. But your man, JD Vance, appeared on a podcast in 2021 and talked about, parenting with his wife.
Mm-hmm.
And the sacrifices they had to make, well, mostly, apparently, Usha and her mother had to make to take care of their children. So one of the privileges that they had was that Usha's mom took off 1 year of a sabbatical leave from her academic career to take care of their child for them so that Usha Vance could return to work.
Which is very nice of her.
Which is very nice of her.
That's very, I don't think I would do that as a grandmother. I'm so sorry to any potential children of mine, but I would never. But please go on.
Yes. But the podcast person that he was talking to called it like the purpose of a postmenopausal female. He said that the purpose of a postmenopausal female, which I guess means grandmothers, is
Mm-hmm.
that their purpose is to take care of their grandchildren. And that like society and corporations take that away from them and stop them from like fulfilling this, I guess, evolutionary need to take care of their children.
Listen, one of my huge pet peeves, triggers, whatever you want to call it, is people who try to sound smart by talking about human beings as if we are on like Animal Planet. You know what I mean? Like I can just imagine, what's that British guy that does the documentaries with his accent where he's talking about, and he's like,
David
in human,
Attenborough.
thank you, in human society, postmenopausal women serve one purpose, and that is to take care of their progeny's progeny. It's like, bro, what are you saying? Why, oh my God. I really hate people like this. Like it's so annoying. That is the dumbest thing I have heard in the last 20 minutes because I'm sure there's more to come. What is he saying? Like, so the purpose of grandparents is just to take care of grandkids. That's it. But not grandparents. I'm sorry, grandmothers and mother-in-laws is to take care of the grandkids.
Yes, you have hit on one of the major points here, because at no point during this conversation does it cross anybody's mind that JD Vance himself, as a father, could have taken a year to take care of the children, that
of
his own
course
father
not.
could have done it, that the
Nope.
father-in-law or the other grandparent, who is a man, could have done this. This whole time, the conversation is about what can help the mother, Usha, go back to work. And the answer is another woman, right?
Yeah.
The answer is another mother, another grandmother. And this exposes the entire lie about the family values of Republicans, because it's not about family values. It's about ensuring that women are forever enslaved to the family. That's it. Like, otherwise there'll be a conversation about what did the fathers and the grandfathers do for the baby.
Right. They're not even touching on the fact that someone had to take a year off of work for childcare, which is a big problem in the US, right? Isn't that something that the Democrats are trying to work on, is giving parents more support for childcare? This isn't like nobody did they even talk about that? It's like they're not the actual problem. One of the problems is that someone had to take a year off work to help at home because childcare in this country is garbage. Like I do not know, once again, why JD Vance is the VP nominee for the Republicans. Like, who did actually? I already know the answer to this, because who did the vetting? It was DJ TJ, right? That's why. That's why he's the nominee, because Trump listened to his sons, and here we are. I don't get it, man. I don't get it.
It gets worse, because I can't believe you haven't heard this story. So the podcaster replies to JD Vance. He tells JD Vance, so this is a weird, unadvertised feature of marrying an Indian woman. To which JD Vance agrees. Like, it's just so freaking racist say this.
Sorry, he said it's a feature of marrying an Indian woman that her mother will stay around?
Exactly.
Oh, wow. Okay. Wow.
Like, this is being presented as something that, only an Indian woman would do for her own daughter, but in this like very weird, vaguely racist way, because it's just like, what do you mean unadvertised feature? Grandmothers have been taking care of babies from like the beginning of time. Why are you tying this to your wife being Indian? He's so weird. Why is he so weird?
Oh my gosh. That is, oh man. I want to say my family's not Indian. My grandma helped take care of me too. So I don't understand, because my mom had to go to work, and I don't get this. Wow. I'm actually speechless.
I have to tell you the next quote.
What?
The
Oh my
next
God.
quote to the podcaster telling him that this is a weird, unadvertised feature of marrying an Indian woman is Vance saying, in some ways, this is the most transgressive thing I've ever done against the hyper neoliberal approach to work and family. So,
Sorry, what does that mean? Because what?
he's saying that allowing his mother-in-law to take his Indian mother-in-law, because that's apparently important, to take 1 year away from work to take care of his family is a transgressive thing that goes against the neoliberal approach to work and family, which is an insane thing to say about your own mother-in-law.
Sorry, what is the neoliberal approach to work and family? What does that mean?
Apparently, he thinks that his mother-in-law could have continued working, and that would be the more liberal thing to do. And the mother taking off a year off of her work to take care of their children is actually against the liberal approach and is a transgression against the liberal approach.
This just sounds like a bunch of people using words so they sound smart, but they're actually just saying nonsense. Because it's like, okay. Is he saying that's some sort of stand that he and his family happen to take against liberalism? Like, what is? Okay,
Exactly.
I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say
Exactly.
because I didn't know about this story and I'm still trying to process someone saying, like, if I were his mother-in-law hearing this, I would be so insulted and so upset that he was using me as some sort of example, campaign prop. I don't know what to call it. And it's just another example of how JD Vance is just the worst. Like, I still don't understand the people who are around him and why nobody has stopped him until now. I hope it's Kamala Harris and Tim Walz, but I can't believe this man, JD Vance, has been allowed to get this far in politics with all of this. And this is recent. This is part of the problem. You can't say this is from like when he was 15 and, you know, a young idiot, right? He's an adult saying he's a father, an adult, a husband, saying all these things. And I don't understand. I really don't.
Yeah, this is just a few years ago, 2020. These videos are coming out from 2020, 2021, right? And it's part of a pattern of what he thinks about women. Now, I really, really, really do not want to bring in family members into this, but let me just say one thing about how this actually came to be. His mother-in-law is a tenured professor of decades now, okay, in California. Okay. So she has the rare privilege of being able to take a sabbatical, which is a paid leave that academia grants you when you've, sort of earned that privilege, right? So this is a very specific privilege that is available to like only the most elite academics in the country. Like you can't even like put a percentage on this. This is just not something that anybody in the country can do for their own kid, to take a year of work knowing that their job is still going to be there and they're going to be paid some level of their salary anyways, right? The batshit crazy part is that over the last 5 years, during the Republican war on academia and DEI and wokeness and all of that, they have actually enacted laws and rules attacking tenure. Like the very privilege that allows JD Vance's mother to take a year off to take care of her grandchild, the Republicans are actually against it. So states like Texas, Indiana, Georgia, North Carolina, and Florida have all challenged tenure for professors. This is this is what gets my head in. And his mother-in-law is safely in liberal California where
Yep.
common sense still rules. And there's still a
Yeah.
democratic, governor and a
Yeah.
democratic
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
majority, right?
Yep.
Like this very privilege that he is touting didn't even come from Republicans. This is the absolute madness of
Right.
this country. Republicans are actually
Mm-hmm.
attacking academics. They're actually attacking, anybody who they think is doing any kind of academic work that they don't support. And one of the things they've tried to attack is this tenure that allows people to take a year off to pursue other things, right? And so
Wow.
this is the problem. He didn't vote for the child tax credit, right? Which would probably have allowed people to pay for childcare. So what is he talking about? How does he get to position himself as a family values person when their family value is really not giving you more childcare opportunities? It's not even making their states giving you paid family leave or paid leave, right? There are only a handful of states across the country that mandate paid family leave. Their solution is to just keep recycling generations of women into childcare. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah. That is an excellent point, which is again more hypocrisy from JD Vance and the Republicans. I really don't know how they continue to tout the whole family values thing. I don't understand why we let that keep happening. And I say let because you can't really stop them from saying things, but I just don't know why people fall for it, I guess. If you dig even a little bit under the surface, you'll see it's all just, lip service. It's not these are not people who care about the actual families that they allegedly care about. All they care about is making women pop out babies whether they want to or not, and then abandoning them after that. It's like, now it's up to you to raise that kid. Yeah. I hope we see a VP debate, and I want to see someone like Tim Walz, an actual family man who does things to support not just his family, but the families in his state. I want to see those two debate and put their ideas up side by side. And I hope America watches to see what it actually looks like to care about people and not just be giving lip service to these ideas.
Yeah, absolutely. The DNC is currently underway and they are putting out their ideas. And I hope that they really lean into it. As you said, I don't understand why liberals and Democrats concede the family values stance to Republicans. We should be leaning into the family values talk, and we should
Yeah.
outline this to the general public. These are the actual values we stand for to help your family thrive. Meanwhile, these people just pay lip service to you.
Right. And I know we're not really talking about this, but Kamala Harris's economic plan, right? There's a provision in there for newborns, right? For the first year of life, parents with new kids get, I don't remember what it's like $6,000 or something in a year, which is going to help, right? It's going to help. You're getting $500 a month. I mean, I know there's inflation, but that's got to buy you some diapers, some formula, some things, right? So this is the party that cares, is the Democrats. It's not Republicans. It's definitely not Republicans. Let's talk about a different topic from, I like to say, across the pond, because it sounds like the UK is super, super close when it's not. But something happened this week, you were telling me, with Liz Truss, who's the former Prime Minister of the UK.
Okay, so Liz Truss, for people who may not know, is a British Prime Minister who served for approximately 6 weeks after Boris Johnson, and she was pushed out by her party because within 6 weeks she tanked the economy of the United Kingdom. And one of the newspapers over there had a running joke about whether she would last pass a piece of lettuce or cabbage. And unfortunately, the cabbage actually survived her premiership, I guess is what I would call it for prime ministers. The cabbage survived her prime minister tenure.
Yeah. That was, I want to say that was hilarious. They had a live cam going. I remember that. They had a live camera going facing a head of lettuce to see if the lettuce would go bad before Liz Truss was out of office. And the lettuce survived. Let's say she had done enough that people were already concerned. So someone started a lettuce countdown and the lettuce survived.
I just want to say, shout out to British people. Whenever I check into their politics, they do the most hilarious things.
I agree.
just a level of trollmanship that Americans have not unlocked yet. So she's essentially a non-entity now, but she is trying to make herself relevant, I guess, to American politics. So she was at some conservative panel in Suffolk, somewhere in England, and they were talking about American politics, and she was talking about how she supports Trump because she believes that Trump is better for the U.S. economy. Keep in mind, this is the lady who tanked one of the largest economies in the world within 6 weeks, confidently giving her own opinion on who is good for the American economy.
Nobody should listen to Liz Truss, ever. But what I do want to point out that the plan she had, because Olu was saying she tanked the economy. What she did was when she got into office in 2022, she came up with a tax plan that was going to cut taxes for the top earners because of what? Trickle-down economics. That was her plan. She said she was going to reduce taxes for rich people, and that way that would stimulate the British economy. And the stock market went absolutely what the fuck, basically, and began to slide. And people were like, this lady is crazy. That's basically what happened. So I want to say, when she says Trump is going to be good for the economy, I don't even know if she knows what the economy is. So let's just, let's just take it with a grain of salt. Once again, people who support Trump for the economy frustrate me to no end. This man does not know what he's doing. I can't stress that enough. If you don't earn mid 6 figures, Trump is not the president for you. And even if you do, you should probably, rich people will do what they want, but most normal people will not be benefiting under a Trump economy. I want to say that I have seen many people, and this is, sorry, I'm taking away a little bit from Liz Truss, but I just want to point out something. I have seen many people over the last year online complaining about their taxes. Their taxes have gone up. Their income taxes have gone up. What's happening? This is Joe Biden's fault. This is not Joe Biden's fault. The tax plan we are under today as a nation is Trump's tax plan. He cut taxes a little bit in 2017 for people, knowing full well that by 2024, which is now, those taxes would go up higher. If you are upset that your taxes are high, that is not Joe Biden's fault. This is Trump's plan in action, which is what everyone told people in 2017 would happen when they passed that tax plan. So I want to reiterate, if you think Trump is good for the economy, you are sorely mistaken. You need to understand how the economy works, because that is inaccurate.
This is the thing. People are not paying attention, right? It's just running on fumes and vibes. Because,
it's definitely vibes. It's definitely vibes.
The only economic plan that Trump has coherently stated is that he wants to put a 10% tariff on imports. This is the guy who is talking about inflation. What do you guys think is going to happen to the price of things if all the goods were imported have a 10% tariff paid on them at the ports?
Well, I guess... No, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, like that 10% is coming directly out of your pocket. It just does not make sense for somebody to tell you that inflation is the worst that it's ever been, and my solution to it is to increase the prices of things by 10% at the ports. That's insane.
Right. Like Procter and Gamble is not going to, they're not going to eat that 10% increase in grain imports for their cereal, right? Like you're going to pay that when you go to the grocery store. It's vibes, it's things that he thinks sound good, but they don't even make any sense. The Trump plan for the economy is not good for middle class people. I don't know why anyone would support that just because the stock market was high and interest rates were low in 2019. Like, if you have a problem with the interest rates and that's why you can't buy a house, you need to take that up with the Fed. That has nothing to do with Trump, okay? You were able to buy a house in 2018, 2019 at 2% interest rate. That wasn't Trump, that was the Fed. And you should go talk to them about that if you're worried about today's rates. That's not an excuse to vote this man back into office because you think he's going to lower interest rates. That's not how the economy works, okay? He doesn't control that. Putting a tariff on goods, every company's passing that on to you. They're not eating that loss at all. So again, please check, please read, please, do your own research on the economy. And this goes also to, back to your original point, to Liz Truss, someone who thinks trickle-down economics still work in this market is not someone who should be giving anyone advice on the economy or who they should vote for president.
Exactly. And to be clear, Liz Truss was not actually pushed out by the general public. She was pushed back by the Tories, who are the richest people in the United Kingdom. The very people she gave those tax cuts to, after she tanked the economy, they were like, hell to the no. We need to get this lady out. When people come on and Trump says, I'm going to fix the economy on the very first day, you have to look at the plan. You can't just run on a bravado and charisma. The plan has to make sense. But shout out to the trolls who were at the panel because they unrolled a banner while she was talking about the American economy, pointing out that she crashed the UK economy, and the banner had a piece of head of lettuce on it. And I again, just props to the UK. Whatever you guys are doing over there, big ups to you.
Yes, they got a new prime minister last month, right? Who is on the Labour Party, which I guess would equate to a Democrat here. It is a fact that the UK has been under a conservative majority for decades. I can't remember how long they had the Conservatives in office there. And for Americans, you might want to look at how that turned out for them. I mean, their economy is not great right now. And, the Labour Party is in office now, so they're hopefully going to turn that around, and we're rooting for them. But after years of conservative majority in the UK, their economy isn't great. I mean, there was a giveaway they were doing for heat in the winter. Like some cereal company or something was giving away heat in the winter. Like it's some real Oliver Twist shit what's happening there. So, I'm just saying, if you're an American, you're like, oh, I wonder what it would be like if conservatives had power for 18 years in a row. Well, you look at the UK and see how they're doing. And that's your answer. Just a thought. All
right, Liz, finally, you have some unsolicited advice?
Yes, I do. And this is a bit more serious than some of our past versions of unsolicited advice, just because I think it's very important. We always try to be helpful with this segment for unsolicited advice. So, and hopefully you have found it useful. But this time it's really something that you should actually take action on and not just sort of hear it and not do anything. But it is about voting in the upcoming election. Ever since 2020, a lot of states have made changes to how voters vote. And some of them have been good changes, expanding access. Like I believe Pennsylvania has automatic voter registration now, so you don't even have to go sign up. If you are a U.S. citizen, you're registered to vote in the state of Pennsylvania. Excellent work, Governor Shapiro. But there are other states that are doing the complete opposite and trying to make it way, way harder for people to vote. And for example, Louisiana passed a law that makes it difficult for community groups to help register voters. And, that's a red state, and maybe it's not something that liberals are worried about, but it's not just that. They're doing it in swing states like Arizona, Nevada. They're making changes to voting laws in North Carolina, states that are actually in play. And the unsolicited advice for this week is if you live in a state, a swing state, or really any state, but a lot of this is for swing states, please, please, please look up what your voter requirements are. There are new ID laws that are going into place in North Carolina, for example. You need to know what you need to have on you to vote on either election day or absentee ballot vote requirements. Things have changed since 2020, which is the last time a lot of people voted. If you're not like me, you don't vote in the midterms and primaries, maybe you don't keep up with this stuff. You only check in every 4 years. It is heading into November. Now is a great time to find out what you might need to vote on election day. So unsolicited advice, please pay attention. Please look into it. Tell your friends and family if you find out something has changed from 2020. We want to make sure you don't stay in line for 6 hours on election day, for example, and end up finding out you can't even vote because you forgot your ID at home or something. Just pay attention to what the voter laws are in your state and make sure you're still registered and eligible to vote ahead of the election.
Absolutely. And tell your mother, tell your father, tell everybody in your state as well. Every state has its own particular rules. Please look up your own state.
Yes, please, because we want to. I don't care if you're a conservative or a liberal. I assume mostly liberals listen to this, but if you're a conservative, I don't care. Just make sure you know what you need to do to vote, okay? What I would hate to happen is we get to November and election week, because I'm sure maybe we won't get the decision on that day, but election week happens, and then we have lawsuits like it's the 2000 election, right? We don't need another Supreme Court decided election in this country. That would cause a lot of chaos. So please just make sure you know what you need to do to make sure your vote is counted and accurately counted. And we can all just have a really normal election. I don't have any insight on what's going to happen after that, but let's at least get through the election first.
Amen to that. That's all from us, folks. If you enjoyed this podcast, please share with friends. Leave us a review on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. It helps us to grow our audience, and we do enjoy hearing from you. Thank you. See you next week.